Hello, this is Wmpyr. This is a photo that I uploaded relatively recently on Twitter, and it shows, my Wmpyr style of knife defense. And you can see that it has three steps. I like the three steps because it's easy to remember, and it's based off of Captain Fairbairn's method. So number one is defend, number two is control, number three is clinch. But really what it comes down to is number one is you're swatting the arm away, okay? And that results in you defending yourself. So you're swatting at the arm. Number two is you're controlling the enemy's arm, because if you don't, they will be stabbing you and cutting you. So you have to control it. In other words, you're grabbing the arm. And number three is it says clinch, but really what's happening here is you are securing the arm that has the knife, okay? Or the arm that has the weapon. So that's really what's going on. In other words, it's defang the snake. So even though my stuff may kind of look drastically different from traditional Filipino martial arts, in my own opinion, I'm still staying true to the Filipino martial arts principles and techniques. I'm still staying true to that in my own way. So I feel like I haven't deviated, even though it is evolved to suit me. So pretty much we attack the arm. Now, whether that is by defensively swatting against it, or it is grabbing and controlling it, or it is by securing it and locking it up, we're still going for the arm. And that's what you're seeing here. And I feel like in a real life self-defense situation, if the opponent is much, much bigger, dealing with their arm, or an isolated case of just their arm, is easier than trying to deal with their entire body. You know what I mean? So in a street situation, I am expecting that they're going to be bigger, stronger, and meaner. So it just makes sense for me to target something a lot smaller, which is their arm. Now, let me explain the photo real quick. I am playing the bad guy, so I'm the one with a knife, and I am attacking my student, and my student is using a bag for self-defense. And to me, that is the ultimate self-defense tool, is this bag. And a friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, has said, it's good to carry first aid kit inside the bag. 100%, that's a good idea. Another thing is like urban survival tools in there, like a glass breaker, seatbelt cutter, something along those lines, a tactical flashlight. That would be good to carry in there, also. So yeah, I'm in the black shirt, and I'm playing the bad guy, and my student is using the bag to defend himself. Now, what happens, I think, like in a lot of self-defense schools, the instructors like to teach, like, okay, you see this bad guy, or what you think is a bad guy, approach you, and you take out your knife and you do the worst to them. You attack them before they attack you, and you take them out. Or if it's not you taking out some kind of weapon, they teach you to, violently and aggressively fully commit and attack them. Attack, 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 and don't stop till they are on the floor, kind of thing, And if you look at photo number one, where I have the knife and I'm coming at my student, and you see my student is ready to use the bag to protect himself. The small bag, which you could use. I'm wearing a belt bag, as you can see, and that belt bag is quick release. I could use that for self-defense. I recommend something like a belt bag, or something like a Indiana Jones adventure bag, something like a small version of that, so that you could, pretty much use it almost like what I would imagine the way you would use a buckler shield from historical European martial arts, or back in medieval times, the buckler shield type of thing, because that is like a small shield, and it's not something you could just hold against your body, and expect that it would protect you from the enemy's attack. No, it's small that their attack would go through, so you had to be accurate with it. And as you could see in photo 1, my student right there is watching, and he's ready to, place that bag against my knife to protect himself. So he has to accurately place that, and that the way he's grabbing the bag with 2 hands right there is kind of similar to the way we grab the stick with 2 hands, and that is called the force-to-force block. So it comes from a traditional Kia, Kali, Escrima, Arnis technique called the force-to-force block. And so we practice a drill over and over again. It's a partner drill where we take turns attacking each other, and that is for step 1. And step 2 is you got to grab the arm, so that is a very tough situation when you get into 2 and 3. Make no mistake, number 1 is in long range. Number 2 is like medium range getting into close range, and number 3 is definitely close range. Clinch is close range. And when you're close with the opponent like this, it's dangerous for you. So definitely prefer long range. And you should always be thinking of getting back to long range. If you have the chance to go for a disarm, or to go for maybe you see an opportunity to knee them in the balls or something, if it's between that and going back into long range, choose going back into long range, because you have no guarantee that the disarm's going to work. You have no guarantee that kneeing the bad guy in the balls is going to take them out. In fact, it might even make them more angry. So if you have a choice between if it's that or going back into long range, definitely choose long range. Why? Because it is the safest thing you can do. It's the safest place for you to go. So please don't think that it goes 1 to 2 to 3. No, 1 is dominant here. Step 1 is where you want to be. And when you go, if you end up in number 2 or 3, that you are in a bad place. Make no mistake, So that is something very, very different from modern day self-defense instructors that I teach. And it just, the bad guy saw me, let's say, in the real world, and they decided for some reason that they're going to turn me into a victim. And when they do this, I expect the bad guy to be bigger, stronger, and meaner. I also expect that the bad guy knows that I'm going to try to run away. They know that I might fight back. So they're expecting all of those things, and they're setting me up. So they have all the advantages. And, I think a lot of self-defense instructors today will teach you, hey, they're not expecting you to attack back, and you suddenly and explosively attack them and attack. You could take them out. And I just don't agree with that. I feel like the bad guy is going to be expecting you to attack back. There's just no way that they're not. They're expecting you to run away. They're expecting you to attack back. And they're trying to corner you. They're trying to con you. They're trying to trick you, confuse you. They're using all these things against you. And the fact that they're doing all those things puts them into an advantage. They're doing all these things onto you all at once, and you're going to be caught off guard. And how am I supposed to go from that to all of a sudden, attack, and kill or be killed attitude? It takes layers and many mental steps for me to be able to overcome social norm and go, wait a minute, something's not right, and then to break free from the societal expectations, behavior that's acceptable, and to counter all that and turn myself into a predator and basically do to them what they were trying to do to me. That's a lot to ask for. I think defense is a lot more justifiable. Defense is a lot more acceptable in your brain. And at least, even if you decide, okay, I need to take this guy out, I think starting with defense would be a good idea. And I can't imagine situations where, no, you have to absolutely kill them first right away. I'm sure there are situations like that, but let's talk about percentage-wise, okay? Percentage-wise, it's got to be much, much lower. So hopefully, what I'm saying here is on step one, where I'm saying step one is defend. If you do that, they were trying to do something to you, and you thwarted that effort. And now they're having resistance. Now they're going, wait a minute, this is not working. Hopefully that discourages them, and that'll stop them, okay? And they'll think, okay, I need to run away. I just failed. I failed at what I was trying to do. My ambush totally failed. So hopefully that's enough, but we don't want to rely on that. So if for some reason you're doing number one and you mess up the distance control, which you want to stay in long range, you want to keep as much distance as possible, and you mess up and you end up in step two, now you have to somehow catch their arm. Why? Because if you don't catch the arm, they're going to stab you and cut you. It's that simple. You have to. Now, there's an argument saying that grab, when you grab their arm, it's not going to be secure. Yeah, true. And that's why we go to step three, which is now you're securing the arm. The way he has my arm there is much, much more secure than in step two. But the main thing is you can't just go straight to step three to secure the arm. So if you go right away from zero, where you don't have any control of their arm, okay, so basically step one, from step one to step three, you cannot teleport like that. And if you try to, the experiments that I've done with my students, it was just plain and simple. I got stabbed to death. I got cut up really, really bad. I mean, it was fatal. It was that simple. So as much as I wanted to skip step two, I realized that you can't. You can't. And the people that say, no, that's not true, you could totally skip it, I say to those people, watch your sparring footage. Watch what you think is realistic. Watch it carefully, and don't tell me, how realistic is your sparring? And I'm sure you're going to think, yeah, it's totally realistic, and I'm totally able to skip step two and go straight to the clinch with success. Yes, I might get cut a little bit, but I am successful. And I say, no, I don't think so. Your student or the people that you're training, they're still feeding you the attack. There is still a realistic element that is missing. I guarantee it. And if you look at it with an objective mind, you will understand that. And when I did the experiment with my students, I was getting caught up, and I didn't want to admit it, but I had to face facts. And my students would apologize. They would say to me, oh, I'm sorry. And I would say, sorry about what? Because they knew they weren't supposed to cut me, because the system, the technique is supposed to work. And I said, no, this is the truth. This is good. This is good that you cut me. I got nothing to hide. I believe in my experience, my training, my background. I all of that I believe is, I'm not saying I'm great, but it's real. So you cut me. That's the truth. I've been training 20, 30 years. You've been training, 1, 2 years or less, and you cut me. That is the truth. So we have to accept that. We have to accept that. And you have to look at it realistically. And then from there you go, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and fix the hypothesis, experiment again, and see how we can make this more favorable conclusions. Like, how can we make this, improve this? How can we make it to where the results are more consistent to the way that we want it to be, right? We have to, and that's not by manipulating the results, that is by changing the hypothesis and changing the strategies, tweaking the techniques. You're trying to figure out, how can we get this technique to work? How can we get this strategy to work? What's missing? You have to turn into a scientist. It has to become martial science. And you got to be honest with the results. The results are what they are. And sometimes they're not what we expect, but you got to work with that. And so step 2 is not skippable. If you skip it, I found that minimum 60% failure rate. So it could be higher than that. And that is not an acceptable number. So that's from my own experiments. You guys, please replicate, try it out for yourself. Okay? But all I ask is, it's easy to have a tendency to feed the attack. And I see it all the time where instructors go, look, let me prove it to you that I could catch the arm, that I could, I could pull this off. And that's because the students are feeding it to the instructor. And as realistic as they try to make it look, you're not going to trick me. I can see it. So, but the big discovery that for me, that was an eye-opener, was going from step 2 to step 3, that could be instantly made. I didn't know that. I see pretty much every instructor that does believe in step 2, they get stuck there. And they think that's it. And they tell their students, from there, you headbutt the bad guy, you knee him in the balls, you attack their eyes, you stomp their foot. That's what you do. And I disagree with that. I don't think that's a good strategy, because if you could do that to the bad guy, they could most certainly do it to you. And remember, they're bigger, stronger, and meaner, and they love violence. That's a bad idea. You're going to be exchanging. So if you could knee them in the balls, they're going to knee you in the balls. You just reminded them that is possible if they didn't think about it. And they're going to love doing it, because they're sick and they're violent, and that's in their nature, right? So I think what you got to understand here is, from the control, okay, you grab their arm, and it kind of has the tendency to turn into a tug of war. And you don't want to do that with someone, once again, that's bigger, stronger, and meaner. So what we want to do is go from control to clinch. Okay, step 2 to step 3, you secure the arm. So, because a grab is not super secure. So you go from a grab, and I don't care if it's a 2-on-1, or if you pin their arm against their body, or you jam their arm and grab their arm, with one hand while you're jamming it, or whatever combination. It really doesn't matter. Just grab the arm as best as you can, and then from there you're gonna go to securing the arm. And like I said, the biggest eye-opener was that I could go from control to clinch, from step 2 to step 3 in a heartbeat. How do you do it? You do it like a parkour person, like urban free flow. It's almost like jumping from one ledge to the next. It's a release and a catch, okay? And trust me, if you train it, you can do it. You might have to learn some timing. You might have to learn a little bit of like sensitivity, where you could feel their force, because there is going to be a lot of force involved, and then you time it, and you go, it's almost like you pop. You go from a control, grab the arm, to instantly secure the arm, okay? And once you secure the arm, that is a lot more solid. And then from there, you could go into what I call wrenching. There's grinding, and there's what I call the wedge. There's all kinds of techniques from there. But in step 3, you can see my student right there in that photo. It's hard to see, but my right hand is put in a wrist lock, and my elbow, my shoulders are already kind of like not in a good position. And so he's wrenching me, and he's doing it very nice, but my wrist is already feeling it, and it's leading to a disarm. And that's where we practice the lock flow. So when you look at Filipino martial arts, like I said, the first step is the long range. That's step one, where I say defend here. I really, really recommend to you guys the force-to-force block partner drill exercise so that you can really get the timing and the body mechanics, being able to evade and keep the distance and move out of the way so that you'll be successful in step one. And then in step two, you see a lot of drills that they do that is designed for medium range or even closer range that almost looks like trapping, or is a type of trapping. The hubud, lubud, the tapi, 1-for-1, these kinds of drills that they do, really to me is about step two, which is you learn how to see the arm and you time it to where you could jam it and grab it, or you pin it and grab it, or you grab it with a 2-on-1. It's really about that. That is the benefit to those exercises, in my opinion. You learn how to track the arm as best as you can, what I call distance checking. So, because if you can't keep up with the arm, you're not going to be able to grab the arm. So that's what you're really getting practice in. And then step three is, this is the clinch, this is grappling. So this is where we do our lock flow. But the lock flow, the locks, the joint locks, the wrenching, this kind of stuff needs to be based off of the wrestling. And when you look at the traditional Filipino martial arts, they have so much stuff in there that these three steps is for sure in there, but they're convoluted with so much other stuff that I see people in step one attacking back, trying to do counters, and they're not able to keep the distance. So they're getting confused. And in real life, they would just probably end up in exchange. And if you have a knife and the bad guy has a knife, you're both just going to stab each other. And, that to me is not a good idea. And then step two, once again, I feel like people are getting so confused with the hubad type of drills that they think that it's all about being able to trap and neutralize the arms and stuff during, during a flurry. And that's really what we want to avoid, because it's so difficult, next to impossible to do that. So like I would say to you guys, the best time to do it is when they're reaching for the weapon. So the weapon's not even out yet. That's ideal. Or, what I've seen in police footage is the guy takes out a knife, the bad guy takes out a knife, and is a little bit shocked at himself, going, whoa, I'm about to use this knife. And that split second is all it took for the police officer to instantly grab onto the guy's arm and stop him. So he was in step two, where he's controlling and grabbing the wrist. And from there, they were in a tug of war, right? But that is exactly what I'm talking about. So that should be the focus. But instead, we are seeing, you throw me an attack, and it's this exchange, and it's really not about that. And then step three, the lock flow, where they're going from one joint lock to the next and showing how smooth their transition is and how well they could control the opponent. To me, that's the wrong emphasis. That looks awesome in a demonstration, but once again, it should be based off of the wrestling, the grappling, and then your locks become, from there, what kind of locks can you do? And the wrenching type stuff is a logical answer. I don't think it's the only answer, but it's a very, very logical answer. And so to me, it's a no-brainer, and that's what I teach my students. But once again, the Filipino martial arts format, the DNA is right here. It's all here, and it's all in FMA. But the specific techniques that I'm using and the way it's put together like this. This is a more simplified version, and I am focusing on very specific techniques. That, to me, the way I organized it is new. The techniques are not new. The way that it's put together, essentially, how do you call it? Because long range exists in FMA, medium range exists, close range exists, all that exists, you know. So there, in that sense, there's really nothing new here. But the way that I put it together and presenting it to you guys so that you can understand and have this usable game plan along with the techniques to go with it, to me, that is new. And I believe that is the way things are now in today's era, because we live in the information era. And in this time, it's all about info. There's good info, there's bad info, and everything in between. So how you get the information and how you organize it and figure out what to do with it, to me, is critical. Because as far as new techniques, new strategies, I feel like we've been on planet Earth long enough that no stone has not been unturned. Like, everything has already been discovered. So what is new here is the amount of information presented. And it's so easy to get lost and get confused and get discouraged and overwhelmed. It's like, I want to learn real self-defense. I want to learn something that I can use for real. And you look it up and you see all this info, and you see people criticizing each other, saying, that's not going to work, that will work, this person's a liar. You see all this crazy stuff, and most of those people here on YouTube, unfortunately, it is a popularity contest, you know. So it's not even about presenting real info. It's actually more about, you know, my channel's bigger than yours kind of thing. And so then it's all convoluted, you know what I mean? All these ulterior motives and stuff. So in this day and age, with so much information available, I feel like the most valuable thing here is now how you organize it. And can you present it in an easy access manner? And I'm hoping these 3 steps is easy for people to understand. And yes, my marketing skills is not great. My charisma is not great. But marketing and charisma, that's how you create a cult. And unfortunately, that is what is happening on YouTube. Is you know, those are the people, like the dog with the largest, loudest bark is the one that's getting the attention, and it's not necessarily the person with a good sense of logic, you know. So that is what for me, this is what's important, is to be able to present to you guys something that you guys could use. And I'm saying to you guys here, carry a self-defense bag. This is great. You guys should do this. This is, you know, to me, this is the best answer I could come up with. And you're still staying true to Filipino martial arts techniques. All the practice that you do, it can be expressed here. And you're still doing FMA. All right. And maybe that's not important for people. They're just looking for functional self-defense. But for me, I spent a lot of time in Filipino martial arts. So it was important for me to play Sherlock Holmes and try to figure out how to make it functional. And that is what I've been doing. And this is my conclusion, at least for now. So that's it. That's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.